Hi, friends. Today is June 10th, and I'm excited for the guest that I have with me today on our From the Heart gratitude or start from the heart. I still got to get that down. I still have to figure out who I am and what we call this, but it's just a daily gratitude podcast. If you haven't listened yet, the idea behind this is to spend 10 or 15 minutes just talking about, whether it's with the guest like I have with Mike today, who you're going to meet in a second, or whether I'm doing this on my own. Just a brief conversation about gratitude, what we're grateful for. Sunday, a couple days ago, I kind of dove into scripture a little bit and talked about gratitude and thankfulness. Yesterday, I had a good friend and a client of mine, Jeff Baldessari, on. I've got friends and colleagues coming on, probably half the time. So the other half, you're stuck listening just to me. But thankfully, today you don't. Today, I'm going to sit back for a moment and let me introduce to you a former Pepperdine, fellow Pepperdine grad, like I am, and a family businessman, also like I am, and a believer in God, also like I am. So Mike and I, we just have all kind of things in common. So Mike Schmitt, tell us about yourself. What did I miss?
Well, thank you very much. You missed that I've been married to my wife for 30 years. We met each other in high school. We have three daughters that are all over the country. Kate's in Boston. Evelyn's actually here. She teaches at Rosary Academy
Oh,
there in
cool.
Fullerton. And the youngest, Colleen, is at Nebraska. She is studying soybean genetics and
Wow.
soil. She's at University of
Well,
Nebraska Lincoln.
someone has to, right?
Right? It's
There
a
you
good
go.
thing.
Well,
Yes,
gosh, our similarities, I'm going to interject for a second. Our similarities continue. My wife and I are coming up on 32 years. We also met in high school. She went to Rosary before she came to Fullerton High School.
there you go.
My dad's side of the family's from Nebraska. So we're just going to continue on this thread of things we have in common.
We'll have to go catch a Nebraska game at
There
Memorial
you
Stadium.
go.
I caught my very first one last year. Holy cow, what a great place to watch football.
Yeah, the whole state turns red.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you bringing me on. I started our consulting practice in 2009. I came out of corporate America working for a large private business and a publicly traded business and did a lot of P&L, management of large divisions. I also had a bit of a reputation for turning around things that were kind of broken or fractured. And out of that, I also did a lot of merger acquisition integration. So in 2009, we started a business called the Rubra Group that really works with the types of companies that we would acquire into these bigger entities, um, and help them understand why their customers buy from them, why their employees stay with them, and add just enough of the corporate rigor to go through and try to enhance enterprise value and not just go through and sell to the big guys, because the big guys we did fine, but we would make them look. We would take all that specialness of the smaller mid-size business, often family owned, and make it look just like ourselves, usually within about 18 months. And I kind of felt like the communities and the customers and the employees all could do a little better if we could just help these guys be a little easier. That's evolved into family business succession the last 7 or 8 years with a lot of the businesses we've helped over the last almost 16 years now. Are looking for assistance, trying to think about second generation, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth generation. I have a special passion for agriculture. My bachelor's degree is in agriculture out of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Hmm.
My master's is from Pepperdine, but I have a special place in my heart for agriculture and agricultural families. I feel like that's an underserved part of our economy, and love anytime I get the opportunity to be able to work with those families, thinking about, how do we transition? How do we develop the next generation? How do we coach and counsel the now generation? And what can I learn from them? Because boy, I'll tell you, every time I work with those folks, I learn as much as I give.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I think people outside of California and even some here in the state don't really recognize how driven by agriculture we are here in California. All you got to do is get outside of LA. If you're not familiar with our geography, you get outside of Los Angeles and drive north, you're just driving through farms for hours, up through the Central Valley and, you
Don't
know,
forget my Central Coast. My wife and I are from
Central
Santa
Coast.
Maria,
There you go.
so we came up through the Central Coast.
Yeah, excellent. Well, great. Well, I appreciate that. And we're gonna put a pin in this for a moment and set up a time for you to come back on the From the Heart podcast, and we'll do the whole hour and we'll talk more about, we'll dive deeper into what you do for a living and I'm sure we have a lot of friends and colleagues and clients in common. I know we do because I've talked to some. But keeping on the theme of the gratitude podcast today, um, at the risk of every episode sounding the same, I've already done this, I don't know, 8 or 9 now, and I don't know exactly how many, but you know, the theme being what are you grateful for? It's kind of cool because everybody has a different answer to that. So the theme is let's talk about gratitude. What are you grateful for? But let's back up for a second and just, Mike, when you think of that word gratitude, just tell me what comes to mind or heart, no pun intended on the name of the show. What comes to your mind or your heart first when you just think of the word?
I think about my grandfathers on both sides came here to the United States in the 20th century for the opportunity to come to America to participate in the American dream, but also to practice their faith because where they were, the different parts of Europe they were in, they weren't necessarily able to practice their faith as freely as they would like. And they came here, they built families, they raised those families, and I'm grateful that the circumstances that brought us to the United States got us here. And I'm grateful for everything that this country gives us. And faith is huge because that was a big part of each family's journey. But then just all the other opportunity that comes from just being an American is a good thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. How does your faith drive your profession?
I'm a cradle Catholic, and multi-generational. We can't even figure out the last generation that wasn't Catholic on either side. So,
Nice.
you go through, and it's that rigor of being a Catholicism is a mystery to some of my Protestant friends, right? And they're like, well, I don't get it. And I started off at Baylor, when I first got out of high school, and they oftentimes asked me if I would like to become a Christian when they found out I was Catholic. So that started lots of conversations.
Nice.
But I think my faith and many of my families, right? Because I tend to work with third to eighth generation families, oftentimes ag families, they also share a lot of the common faith values that I've been raised with. And how do you treat your elders? How do you raise your children? How do you interact in your community? How do you give back into your community, and quiet ways, right? It doesn't need to be, wear it on your sleeve. How do you look out for those and take that opportunity to take the what's been given to you, and give back. And I think faith is a huge part of what I do. It's a huge part of helping our families think about why do they work as hard as they work, right? What
Exactly.
what do they want to do with the fruits of what they produce, and once I help them figure that out, or once they a lot of times they help me figure it out, then we can start to build good plans that are consistent with what's gone on previously and forge forward going forward.
Awesome. One of the things that I do in each of these episodes every day is I think about a question. If there was a question that you could pose for an upcoming guest on this topic, what would that question be? I know I didn't prep you for that, but I interview different people each day. And without telling you who I'm interviewing, on the topic of gratitude, or if there's a question that you wish I would ask you, is there anything that comes to mind thinking forward to a question to leave for the next guest?
I think we as parents, you and I are of an age where we have parents, and you're starting to be a grandparent, and I think
I'm not just starting. We're in
well
double
into it.
digits now. Yeah. Yeah.
We're not there yet, but
Yeah.
with three daughters, I suspect we will be. And
Yeah.
it's that how do you emulate gratitude in your children,
Mm,
and I think how do you make them think of people other than themselves? And I think you can only do it with a gracious heart. And it's not perfect, and it's not easy, and yet it takes regular rigor. But I think it's that thinking about stewardship. I mean, part of our goal as stewards, part of our role as stewards is to try to help people around us hopefully see where they could be gracious, and they could have gratitude, um, for things that are around them, even when it's dark, even when they're struggling, even when
yeah.
there's turbulence.
Yep.
I
Everything
don't know that I
happens.
answered your question.
No, you did. I love it. I love it. And you got me thinking, and my pause was less about did he answer the question? It wasn't that at all. It's just more where you sent me. Um, yeah, the things that happen in our lives, everything happens for a reason, obviously. You and I both believe that, being, believers as we are, but I also truly believe, and I think you do as well, that even the rough stuff is there for a purpose. I mean, this world's going to be tough. There's a lot of, all you got to do right now is turn on the news. I mean, literally turn on the news and you'll see rough stuff going on here in Southern California and around the country for whatever, whatever reason. But yeah, it really, I have found when I approach life and I even have gratitude for the hard things, that the hard things kind of tend to get easier and the easy things get even easier, get better. So yeah, and that's why I wanted to do this every day. I wanted us to, as a people, be thinking more in terms of gratitude on what we're thankful for each day, as opposed to the woe is me and oh my gosh, here's another trial or here's another challenge or oh my gosh, another person is sick. And if we prayed for everybody, I talked about this the other day. If we prayed for everybody that needs prayer, that's all we would do 24/7 is pray. Because I think you and I both could make a very long laundry list of people and situations that need God's touch and prayer. Excuse me.
Well, and I think to that point, so I'm grateful for my faith. I'm grateful for my
Yeah.
wife and our children, right? I'm grateful for our country. And I think that, I don't want these just sound cliche, but it's true, right? It's and then the skills that God's given us to be able to interact with people. I'm blessed with many friends. I'm blessed with many deep relationships,
Yeah.
and and I mean it's crazy when you really sit down and think about how much we have. Um, and maybe it's not monetary, and it's not monetary.
Yeah.
It's much more the depth of relationships and it's really depth of relationships. I think is one of those things,
Yeah.
and depth of God-fearing relationships that I feel very blessed to be around.
Yeah. You and me both. All right. So the last thing I'm going to ask you before we carry on with our day, we're doing this early in the morning on the 10th of June. So as you think forward for your day, you can be as generic or as specific as you'd like. It's totally up to you. At the end of the day today, when you lay down, put your head on the pillow and you look back and you think, man, today was a great day. What happened? What made today? What will make today great? And what do you hope at the end of the day, or what do you plan at the end of the day that you'll be able to say in prayer or conversation or in your private thoughts that made today so good?
Um, I have a pretty good day going.
Not even 8 o'clock in the morning. That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
It's a pretty, yeah, ag and construction. Most of my families are ag and construction. They all get up early, right?
Yeah.
So it's good though. But y- you know, this afternoon, my Rotary Club's working on a project in Ghana where we're
Mm.
working with a school out there, bringing technology and the internet to the school. There's currently 210 kids. So at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I get to sit down with the priest who's kind of put that together, and we've come up with this international project. It's going to be fun, I think, for us, and it's been a year in the process, but we've got other clubs that are joining in and doing that. And then tonight we're having dinner with the widow of a partner and a good friend of mine, who we did a 10-year celebration of life a couple of weeks ago.
Mm.
And he was a wonderful guy. A guy named Michael Melloway died of Lou Gehrig's disease 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And super bright, super funny, and Julia's since remarried to a wonderful man. We're gonna go have dinner with she and Rob, her husband, and it's just I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just life is good. Like life
Yeah.
is like not every single element of it's good, but overall life is really good.
Yeah. Well, I name each episode, and sometimes I let AI do it, and sometimes I do it. But what I'm hearing, and you haven't said these words, but what I'm hearing in you is just um, Mike Schmidt's the type of man who can find joy in anything and everything. And I've known that about you the little bit that we've known each other over the last few years. And like we talked about before we started recording, we're way past due to sit down and have that cup of coffee or lunch together, and probably collaborate on some things as well professionally. So
Would
I
love
look
it.
forward to that.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity, and I love what you're doing. Setting the day off to think about what we're grateful for is just a great way to start the day, start the week, start the month, start the year. Thanks for doing this.